The story of who settled America begins long before European ships ever crossed the Atlantic. For thousands of years, diverse indigenous peoples thrived on this land. From the Arctic Circle to the tip of South America, they built complex societies, cultivated the land, and developed rich cultural traditions. To say they were the first settlers is an understatement. They were the architects of civilizations that flourished for centuries, leaving an indelible mark on the continent's history. These first Americans were not a monolith. Hundreds of distinct tribes, each with their own language, beliefs, and ways of life, populated the vast expanse of the Americas. The Iroquois Confederacy in the Northeast, for example, established a sophisticated system of governance based on cooperation and consensus. In the Southwest, the Pueblo peoples constructed remarkable cliff dwellings and mastered desert agriculture. Along the Pacific Northwest, tribes like the Haida and Tlingit were renowned for their artistry in woodcarving and storytelling. These diverse civilizations, with their deep understanding of the land and its resources, would forever shape the destiny of the Americas. Their presence challenges us to reconsider traditional narratives of settlement and acknowledge the profound impact they had on shaping the continent's identity long before the arrival of Europeans. Their story is not a footnote in history, but the foundation upon which the narrative of America is built. It is within this context, a continent already teeming with life and legacy, that the story of European arrival unfolds, forever altering the course of history for both the indigenous inhabitants and the newcomers who sought to claim a piece of this new world for themselves. The year 1492 marks a turning point in the history of the Americas, the year Christopher Columbus, an Italian explorer funded by the Spanish crown, reached the shores of the Caribbean. This encounter, often mistakenly hailed as the discovery of America, set in motion a chain of events that would irrevocably alter the course of both the eastern and western hemispheres. Columbus, convinced he had found a westward route to Asia, had stumbled upon a landmass previously unknown to most Europeans. This new world, as they called it, ignited the imaginations of European powers, sparking a wave of exploration, conquest, and colonization that would reshape the geopolitical landscape. The Spanish, eager to expand their empire and exploit the riches of this newfound territory, established the first permanent European settlements in the Americas. From the Caribbean islands, they ventured into South and Central America, encountering the mighty Aztec and Inca empires. These encounters, initially marked by curiosity and trade, quickly descended into brutal conquest fueled by gold, God, and glory. The arrival of Columbus and the subsequent influx of Spanish explorers marked the beginning of a new era, one characterized by both cultural exchange and violent clashes. It was a period of profound transformation that laid the groundwork for the complex and often tumultuous relationship between Europe and the Americas in the centuries to come. Driven by a potent mix of ambition and avarice, the Spanish embarked on a campaign of conquest across the Americas. Their pursuit of gold and silver led them to plunder the wealth of the Aztec and Inca empires, decimating indigenous populations and forever altering the social and cultural fabric of the Americas. Conquistadors, often outnumbered but armed with superior weaponry and aided by European diseases that ravaged indigenous populations, toppled empires. Hernán Cortés, with his band of conquistadors, conquered the Aztec Empire in 1521, while Francisco Pizarro overthrew the Inca Empire in 1533. These conquests, while marking a turning point in European colonialism, came at a devastating human cost. The Spanish conquest was not just about military might, it was also a spiritual crusade, driven by a fervent desire to convert indigenous populations to Christianity. Spanish missionaries established missions throughout their territories. These missions, while ostensibly centers of religious instruction, often served as instruments of cultural assimilation, suppressing native beliefs and practices. The consequences of Spanish colonization were profound and enduring. The influx of gold and silver from the Americas enriched the Spanish crown, but fueled inflation and economic instability in Europe. The transatlantic slave trade, established to replace the dwindling indigenous labor force, would leave an indelible stain on history. And the clash of cultures, the decimation of indigenous populations, and the introduction of new diseases would forever alter the demographic and cultural landscape of the Americas. The Spanish were not alone in their pursuit of New World riches and ambitions. Other European powers, enticed by the tales of wealth and opportunity, set their sights on carving out their own empires in the Americas. The British, French, and Dutch, each with their own motivations and approaches to colonization, joined the race for land, resources, and influence in this new arena. The British initially focused on establishing settlements along the eastern coast of North America, founded colonies like Jamestown in 1607 and Plymouth in 1620. Driven by a desire for land, religious freedom, and economic opportunity, British settlers embarked on a different path than their Spanish counterparts, one characterized by agricultural development, trade, and the gradual displacement of indigenous populations. The French, meanwhile, concentrated their efforts on establishing fur trading posts and alliances with indigenous tribes in present-day Canada and the Great Lakes region. Their approach, less reliant on large-scale settlement and more focused on building relationships with indigenous nations for economic gain, created a distinct dynamic in their interactions with Native Americans. The Dutch, with their own mercantile ambitions, focused on establishing trading outposts along the Hudson River, founding New Netherland, a colony that encompassed present-day New York City and surrounding areas. Their pursuit of trade and profits, much like the French, led them to engage in complex relationships with indigenous tribes.